Welcome to Uncontained. I'm your host, Aaron Static Render, and welcome to 2020 and the latest episode of Uncontained. Actually, it's going to be a flashback episode where I take a look back at episode 169, one of my favorite episodes from the year, with Elaine Clark from Voice One in San Francisco. She's actually the founder and also a voiceover talent herself, which in this episode, she gives a lot of great advice, and that's part of the reason why I picked this one to replay here. And it plays into, say, a New Year resolution of my own. I don't know what yours are, but if it's entertainment related, you may be able to pick something up from this. But I would like to, for my New Year's resolution, I'll just throw this out here. I'd like to do something to pursue voiceover more actively, whether it's get on one of the voiceover websites, which I will be doing, or even attend one of the classes at Voice One, which you can find a listing of classes at voiceone.com, including classes such as character work, even have improv and acting classes, making big decisions. Those are all classes that they have going on right now, and you can check it out at voiceone.com. And yeah, go after whatever you want this New Year's. That's gonna be my New Year's resolution, going after what I want and continuing on getting great advice from people here on the podcast. So I won't keep you waiting any longer. This is episode 169, Revisited, with Elaine Clark, right here on Uncontained. How are you doing today, Elaine?
I'm doing great. Thanks for bringing me here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me over here. We're in your studio right now in the padded room, so we could bounce off the walls a little bit if we want.
That's true. I did bring you into my studio, and I'm happy that you're here. And we worked together before on a project, so this is really fun.
I actually played that like the week after on my show, just to show people like what I did. Is like it wasn't like a paid gig for me. It was actually it was kind of like a class in a way, but it was like a become the voice of your own video game. And it was really fun coming up with the voices for the characters. And so that's how we got to know each other and how this interview came to play.
Right.
So before we could talk about that a little bit later if you have any more of those classes coming up or those things coming up. But first, for my audience that may not be aware of who you are yet, could you do just a brief introduction of yourself, how you got into voiceover?
Okay, well, when the dinosaurs were roaming the earth, I got into voiceovers.
Don't be
I
so
think that
harsh
was
on yourself.
no, that was like in 1980. I was a theater major in college, and
Okay.
then I moved to San Francisco, and then I was doing some theater, but I wasn't making a lot of money. And then I saw a little tiny ad in the San Francisco Chronicle about voiceover, and went, "Oh my goodness, this is amazing! I should go ahead and go to this class." And I went, "Oh my goodness, I can just go in, record a script, and they give me more money than I would have made on the whole rehearsal and performance of this play." So I then put together a reel at that point. It was called Reel, spelled with two E's rather than It's
Okay.
Real. And walked it around to different advertising agencies, production companies, got in with talent agents. I became the voice of some Channel 7 news programs. So I was the fluff announcer in Dating in the 80s. Find out how tonight on Channel 7.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, at that
Okay.
point, we kind of puked out the spot. Things have gotten a little less smiley.
I did radio for a while too, so I did a little bit of the regurgitation of words, but I didn't go to the extreme of it, like not like you'd see on The Simpsons or anything like that. All right, coming up now, we got yeah, that's just a little much. But all right, so when now everybody says with a reel you're supposed to get professionally done. Did you get yours professionally done, or did you put it together yourself at
No,
the
I
time?
absolutely got it professionally done.
Okay.
I think that we're producing a product, and there's a process that a voice actor has to go through. First of all, people usually come in because someone said, "You have an amazing voice. You should try to do this." And then you realize it's really about coordination, having your physical movements match with your voice, match with the scripts and the attitude. And then you have to figure out how to interpret the various types of scripts and then read it in a way that makes the audience want to actually buy that product.
Yeah.
And that's easier said than done, because a logical side of our brain is going, that's ridiculous. You never even used that product. So after you go through some training, then you put together a demo, and I produce demos for people now, and I have for the last 25 years. But and then you produce that, and then you take that around to the different ad agencies and either upload it on their websites or send them an email, whichever their process is, and try to get as many talent agents around the country, around the world, if you want.
Yeah, yeah, and as you were talking, like I was kind of watching you. You mentioned talking with like your body movements and stuff like this. The whole time you were talking with your hands. Like I do that partially because I don't know, it may be because I have Italian ancestry, but but just watching you talk with your hands, and when I was in here working on that video game script with you, and the movements that you do with your body, I didn't quite understand what each one did.
Mm-hmm.
So having that explanation was like really kind of cool. So it's like, oh, put your arm back, your shoulders back a little bit, or like move your hand to the side, and you'll get a whole different sound out of your mouth, which
Right. Our muscle memory is amazing. And knowing how to play the instrument, which is our body, with someone else's words on a script, and it makes it come alive so that you can then say, with my shoulders back, I got more confidence, and my voice just dropped in pitch. Now I'm going to move my shoulders and droop them a little bit. Now I'm going to be more casual sounding. So all
yeah.
these movements, without me having to think, are happening because of my muscle movement.
Yeah, it's interesting how that worked. How long did it take you to figure out what each movement did? Or like, because as I was saying, I move my hands just naturally talking. But to get the desired effect, like lowering your hand at the end of a sentence to drop your voice, or raising it up to go up at the end. Uh,
Well, when I was learning voiceover, no one was teaching me any of these things. They were just saying, just gesture, move, do something. And I
yeah,
just found that it was too general, and I wanted to know what the specific actions would be. So it was just something that gradually happened over time out of necessity, and also being a coach and teaching people how to do voiceovers and directing projects. And you go like, oh, that talent's not getting there. I would then just say, raise your eyebrows. And just you can hear how my voice kind of raises and drops when I just raise and drop my eyebrows. So I'm raising and dropping my eyebrows.
okay,
And then
yeah,
if I just say go over there, I just gesture with my left hand going forward rather than go forward. That
yeah.
that has sort of a stagnant feel. If I already mentioned the shoulders, but I can also there I call them butt reads. Also if you tighten your butt, it has more of an intensity to it. So I can also tighten my back, and that has a different feel to it. You can have like a wiggle wobble kind of feel where it's all kind of casual. So that's
Yeah.
all just on movement and from every little muscle in our body.
That's interesting. I was actually reading like just I've been actually reading your book. There's money where your mouth is off and on. I was just going back and recapping some of the beginning because I forgot about that today, and I did read that about tightening your butt to deepen your voice. And like I've never really done that to try to deepen my voice. I've just more tried to relax things. Just like
But
kind
you're
of.
tightening your butt right now, aren't you?
Actually, no, my butt is loose. That's
I'm not checking. I
well,
can't see
not
that. I
not
can
loose,
attest.
but I had some bad Denny's earlier, so. But no, I didn't tighten my butt. But then, like, I think if you tighten it, you get a little more grit or something
Yeah,
like
it
that.
just
And it's
has
like,
that intensity, because there's certain situations where you tighten up and other ones where you loose and relaxed. If you think about music, how it kind of changes if we kind of wiggle like with the music. Now, the only thing is that your mouth still has to point towards that microphone. And
yeah,
a lot of people in the beginning, they start looking away and following their hand motion. So all of a sudden they go off mic and then they come back on, then go back off on mic, and now they're back on. And you can hear how
yeah,
that's problematic on the microphone.
exactly. And she did that intentionally here, guys. She's a professional.
Don't do that at home.
Yes, yes, yes. And what just happened earlier, that was the most I've ever talked about the tightness of my butt on my show, or probably anywhere else, but just. But nothing's off limits here. So, now, like, as I've said, I've been reading your book, and it's really kind of cool. You have kind of a backstory of voiceover a little bit, how you got into it when it was still a male-dominated field. And it may still be, but it's balanced out some,
It's much
correct?
more balanced than it was
Yeah.
before. There are different types of work. I mean, just think about all the things that since 1980 that things have developed over time. The video game business has gone more
Yeah.
from ooh, oh, body blow to it's more advanced and very realistic. And with the commercials have gone beyond just what's on TV. It's also it can be on playing before an app game that you're playing, or on before a YouTube video that you want to see. It's stagnant and playing on someone's website in case you want to find out what's happening with Special K. You can go and see a video
Yeah.
about that product. So that it's everywhere, and also with especially being in the Bay Area, it's really fun because with Silicon Valley and the corporate stuff really happening, a lot more corporate industrials and more business work has developed over time, and e-learning, of course. And
Is that like trade videos and stuff like that, or training videos for offices?
yeah, there are all types of different things. So you have, let's say, you're going to they're going to a trade show. They might put together a video that's going to be playing on a big screen that now has to cut through the noise of a trade show. There's one that's going to be internal training information that's going to go on their intranet inside that company's website. There are ones that are going to be external to explain how this business works, that adds sort of a feel-good feeling to it. There are explainer videos that are real light and fluffy with a little cartoon that tells you how to do something really simply. And, and then you also have other types of narration stuff that's more documentary oriented.
Okay. Okay. And what would you say your specialty in voiceover is?
Well, this is where I have many different skills, and
Okay.
it
All
grew
right.
over
That's good
time.
to
Well,
have
let me
too.
just tell you how it evolved.
All right.
So it was so when I first started, it was I came from theater, and then I got into commercials, and it was commercial voiceover. Then I went into commercial on camera, and then I went into corporate industrial on camera, and then doing narration for the voiceover for narrations for businesses. And then the video game business started really taking off when we went from floppy disk. That was a long time
Like
ago.
Oregon Trail games.
Yes, yes. And there's a whole generation of the Oregon Trail people out there that, anyway, so when it started having more space for voice, I was not only voicing a lot of the projects, but I was also then hired to cast and direct various
Okay.
projects along the way for Sega and Sony and other companies like that. And then working on toys, and when the animatronic toys became more popular with them talking, so I've worked on hundreds of toys at this point as well. So I sort of grew with it, but I think of myself as an entrepreneur and a production company as well
Okay.
as a talent. So I didn't just stop with me when they said, I see that you can do this. Can you do more? So I would
Yeah.
say yes. And then I started casting, directing, producing, a whole series of things.
Very cool. Now, you said that you came from theater to voiceover. Were there any challenges moving from theater to voiceover? For example, like I came from radio and I was trying to do some regular conversational commercial reads, but I couldn't get the like kind of announcer out of my voice. I felt like I had to do something with my voice in order to not sound dull.
Right. No, that's
But
very common.
yeah, was there any
Oh,
obstacles that you had to come, or was it pretty easy to
absolutely. No, I say it was not easy to translate that, because theater is about filling a space. It's also about being very visual and how you use your body and take up more space on a stage and move certain ways. And you have several weeks of rehearsals plus several weeks of the show, hopefully, that you can grow and find more about your character.
Okay.
With voiceover, you had to be at opening night within 5 minutes, and you just saw the script. Now, I wasn't prepared for that, and I wasn't prepared to bring it down and make it real. I was too big.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of stage actors, just sort of like DJs, that
Yeah.
they would then go, "Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is what's happening," and then you're going, "I want it
good
real. I
caricature.
am real. I'm being very real," and then you say, "No, let's just make it conversational and make it just like we're talking right now."
Yeah, exactly. It's easy for me to do it like during an interview like this where I'm just talking to you.
Mhm.
But like if I'm just recording something, sometimes I slip back into what my radio was, which was like Eastern After it was Real Rock 94.1 KRNA, this blah blah blah, type thing. So it was a little bit up there, but it wasn't like up there.
Well, and
But
station imaging is also a good part of the business. So and having that as a skill is also really good.
yeah.
But
So,
knowing when to do it, when not to, because I think that also understanding the various styles of work that's out there, that's where people get tripped up.
yeah.
So I developed a style of how to take the words, find the subtext, and boil down the script in various ways so I could get to the root of it within just a couple minutes. And after you've
Okay.
been in the business for a while, it's like the same sort of information but different words.
Yeah.
So it's not as a surprise. I think when people are first starting, they keep reinventing the wheel until you find out that you've already used that pattern somewhere else. You already have connected with it a certain way. So that's what makes it kind of interesting and not as difficult as you progress in your career, because you go, oh, I've done one like that. I can pull from that history.
This is like that Kicks ad I did talking about
Yes.
Special K.
Right.
You said you developed a way to dissect the script. What are some of the techniques that you use? I'm not going to have you give them all away because I know you teach that. But
Well, and in my book, There's Money Where Your Mouth Is, there's a lot of techniques, but I didn't give all of the techniques in there. But it's, how to give, when you look at a sentence, when people talk, they have different rhythms to a sentence. When people read, they tend to read with a very rhythmic pattern. So it all kind of sounds the same. And that's why we can tell, like a telemarketer or someone who's reading off of a script,
yeah.
that it's being read rather than being spontaneous. Knowing how to change the rhythm of it, find the focus words and have it stand out, how to gesture and move and know where everything is and create a 3D world around you through gestures and movement. That's also big. So anyway, I just sort of broke it down into the various areas of subtext and technique and styles and how do you improvise in certain sections of it so that it sounds spontaneous when it's appropriate.
Does that have anything to do with like the markings on the page?
Yeah, I'm a real proponent for how to mark the page. I don't really do that on my own scripts anymore because I've learned it so well. But that's where, like in my app, and in the book, we have a section of it that is about how to do gestures to give different feelings. So like if I put a dot on the page, it would be like, that is correct. And I just popped my finger on the word that.
Okay.
And if I want to do it as a carrot up and down, I go, that is correct. So the hand went up and down, so it had a movement. I can do it the opposite way with the carrot down and up. That is correct. So then I can also do it with a wiggle. Or if I just do jazz hands on it, that is correct. So there's so many different ways I can arrow. That is correct. Arrowing it up, arrowing it down. That is correct. So you have all these different ways that you can read the script. And I think what a lot of people do is they just read it one way and they don't realize that there's so many other possibilities.
Yeah.
But that word emphasis chart is really important. And the app I have is adding melody to your voice. So it comes with a video of how to use your body as well as how to use the word emphasis chart. Plus you can record yourself, listen to back the samples that I've recorded and see whether you're doing it right. Because I think coordinating your voice with your body movements takes a lot of work because it's just not logically there at first until it all connects and you become you again.
Okay. All right. So after a while, it'll probably become feeling more natural to you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Or
So at
is that
first it's
the
like
becoming you again part.
Right, because you're dissecting something that you haven't paid attention to anymore. What do you do when you see a friend across the street? I look at them.
Yeah.
Did you wave? Did you gesture over? What did you do? I don't know. I just saw them. And so you have to think about that.
Yeah.
And how did you move and you act and then incorporate them. Then after a while you go, oh, okay, that's what I actually did. And I have to put that in my work. So now it doesn't look like you're working, but at first it looks like you're orchestrating yourself too much because it's not in your body yet and it's not really trusting. But as soon as it gets to that trust level and it just happens naturally, that's the person you are in real life.
Okay, I think I got a really good analogy for that.
Okay.
Like when you're marking up the page and first getting used to the markings, the hand movements and everything, it's like when you meet somebody you're When you meet somebody you're interested in and you first go approach them and talk to them, you're kind of thinking and dissecting every word you say, like, oh, I don't want to look like a fool, I don't want to come across as an idiot, or like put my foot in my mouth. And then like after that initial contact and you start talking to them, you go out with them, and your conversations become more natural, you're able to be yourself more, instead of that like first date being the interview process.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because you're probably on your best behavior.
Yeah.
Or you're like, and it's all also about subtext. At that point, you're not worried about, will they like me? Will this be impressive? This is why bars sell alcohol, so that guys can go up to a woman and say, "Can I buy you a drink?" Is that because the guy? Let me ask you this question: is that because the guy just has extra money?
No, not this guy.
Okay.
Not this guy. I wish.
There's usually a subtext to it, right?
Yeah.
So I'll let you guys fill in the blanks over there. But it's that subtext that we have to put into our work. And without the subtext, it's just words on the page. And that's how we lift it off the words and make it our own.
It's cool to get into your head and see how this stuff works, because as you know from our experience working together, I actually want to get into doing voiceover, like for video games or character voices, stuff like that. So
Excellent.
Exactly. Anytime that I can talk to somebody in the voiceover industry, I've had a couple on my show before. It's always fun. I can't complain about getting advice one-on-one.
Yeah. Well, we had such a good time working on that video game, and just you recording it and then finding all these different characters, whether you're an admiral or whether you're just like, oh no, we're gonna die kind of guy.
Yeah, I realized that I changed the character's name like 2 or 3 times. So it was Ultar. I got it now, but I think I might have went to Ultron or something like that. But you got to get the name right of the character you're doing, or else
dang it. Right?
I know, right? I just want somebody who changes names all the time.
Yeah, maybe he has multiple personalities.
Yeah. It was fun though. I got to do a few of my voices that like I've been working on. I hadn't heard on a mic yet or something like that. And to be able to do that every day for a job, that would be my idea of fun.
Why don't you do a computer voice then, right now?
My computer voice?
Yeah.
Oh God, I don't remember what they said. Problem. Imperative, like a directive. Imperative.
That's right.
Or imperative.
That was pretty good.
And then you add the distortion, and it sounds more like a computer.
Yes, yeah, and that's where we have all these sound effects to make us sound good, and plugins of all different types.
So what are some of the voices that you have done? Like this is, I don't know, we can call this like a show and tell section of or hear and tell section.
I a while back I played like Arthur's mom in a video game, and it was just like, now Arthur, now you go to your room and think about what you just did. Now no one's mother really sounds like that.
No.
But Arthur's mother was just super nice in how she explained how to do things. And then it would be, I was also Barbie in some things, and it was just like, oh, don't you just love my hair? It's just the best. And then you sort of go, oh my God, I'm an adult. I just said that. And then, just other ones was like, and then he turned around and it was awful. Then it might be someone who had, the face, it was burned. So you go into other characters like that. And then it's this fun stuff. It's like, hi, and welcome to my farm.
Get off my yard!
I'm trying to.
I just can't walk any faster. Oh my God. Do you ever just walk around town doing voices? Or
the way my voices come out are just how it's kind of spontaneous, and how I hold my body and how I move, the different voices come out. So I don't think as much about how they are, because I've done so many for so many years, that just the movement of it, my muscle memory gets me into that voice. So if I slump my shoulders, and I just got older and I gave myself arthritis with my fingers, the voice changed. But now I can get happier, and now my shoulders go back, and now I become a happier person. It's like, oh, then I can be the mean girl. Yeah, right, totally. Like, you are so cool, aren't you?
Yeah. Like, and as you're doing all these, I'm watching you like change the posture of your body and also your mouth as well.
Mhm.
I noticed that when I was trying to figure out how to do stuff, like you look at Robert De Niro's face, you see how he always is like kind of tight, like does that like smile, like
Yes, I see.
right there. Like,
Yeah.
I got nipples, Greg. Can you milk me? Hmm?
That's it,
uh,
because we have all these little muscles that we can use in a different way to create a voice. And that's what makes it endless. It's so fun to come up with that. And I think that when I was a child and I would listen to something on TV and I would just imitate it. And my
yeah,
parents would go, "What was that? How did you get there?" But I had no idea that there was a voiceover business that you could get into. I would
yeah.
watch cartoons or I'd watch commercials. I didn't know how those voices got there. They're just there.
Well, that's really cool, like that you had that from that young age, and then you figure out, okay, this is what I'm meant to be doing right here. So I guess the next step would be to ask, like, what advice do you have for people who are looking to get started or get their foot in the door of the voiceover industry?
Well, you really need to study the craft. Even though people have told you you have a really nice voice, there's technique and uh, and specific requests of you because you're doing it for a company that has a financial gain from this,
Yes.
and it's also about how to save time. So how can you take direction and do it quickly in a way that's going to motivate people to have that feeling and that action that the company wants? That's what it's all about, and it's stuff that we haven't really thought about for a while. And people who are coming from a stage background have to tone down and rechannel that information. People who are coming from people just told me I have a nice voice, so this seems like a cool thing, have to then add on some of the acting skills. I was just
Yeah.
working with with a group on how to use their imagination, and it was a group that was very corporate, and they'd had it kind of stripped away from them. They're like, how do we find imagination? I was like, wow, I can't really teach you imagination, but I want you to realize when you do imagine something, maybe it's you're going, gosh, I really want that new car that's a certain color I can see it in my front yard, well, the driveway, hopefully not the front yard, or somewhere
Depends
on
on
the
what the night
street.
was like.
It's true. I was like, why is that car in my front yard?
Is that my car?
It's not even my car. How did it get here? So, but if you can imagine, but we're imagining right now, what
Yeah.
if that happens and we can go off on that riff for a long time? And that's what's so fun. And that's why improv is so important. People then should really study improv and also then take acting classes. And that's where I started Voice One 33 years ago. And it's here in San Francisco. And we teach all different types of classes to get you to be a professional. But at the very least, it helps you understand yourself
Yeah.
and become a better communicator. And that's universal, whether it's just with family relationships or whether it's in business. It carries through wherever, and it's a creative skill. And it's always fun. You rarely see voice actors depressed. Well, I don't know about that, but I'm feeling very sad right now. But no,
Yeah.
you find them just going, "Oh wow, this was really a fun job." Now, if I have to edit the heck out of it for a long period of time, I might get a little sad.
Yeah. I don't blame you. Like another thing that you gave me pointers on was not to breathe in the middle of a take. Pretty much if it's like under 10 seconds or under 15 seconds, you're supposed to do it all in one breath.
Right. Well, I think of it, there's the actor breath and then there's the character breath.
Okay.
So if I'm talking to you and I'm in character and then my character goes, well, I don't know. That was part of a character's
Okay.
breath of understanding because there's an emotion that goes with it. If it's me going, well, I don't know, that's an actor's breath that I just ran out of air or I saw punctuation. So I felt I had to read. I had to breathe, right?
Yeah, definitely. So that's one thing that I've been trying to work on a little bit as well. Being able to get stuff out all in one breath without. Did you mention that you teach improv yet, or did you
Well,
just mention improv?
I just mentioned improv, and I have taught improv, but there's so many different schools around that teach improv all over the country
Yeah.
that it's something that if you want to get into voiceover, it helps you have what one producer told me. He said, "I want someone with soft brain." It makes you not be hard headed, but
Yeah.
more accepting because it's all based on the yes and. And how do you take that and help you become more creative and imaginative and accepting? And that's really what this is about, because we have, you're either coming from a glass is half full or a glass is half empty perspective.
Yeah.
And we want you to have more of the glass is half full and let's fill the rest of it. Let's see what else happens with that. Rather than, how come I only got a half a glass?
I have the glass is half empty, but you get free refills.
Ooh, that
Yeah.
sounds nice. Is
So-
that from Denny's? Is that where you have a problem?
No, that wasn't from Denny's, but I've had that from long before Denny's. But today I had the Santa Fe, like Santa Fizzle skillet or something like that. It had some weird name to it, and yeah, it made me sweat a little bit later.
Okay, put some
Won't go
fizzle in
too
your
much
sizzle.
Yeah, put some fizzle in my sizzle in the flushle. I
Gosh.
don't know.
This is all potty talk.
Yeah,
people.
yeah, literally. But you're supposed to yes and that.
Yes, and potty talk.
Yes,
But who doesn't
and-
like that? You know?
Exactly. You can't go wrong with like poo jokes or like wiener jokes unless you're in front of a Puritan audience.
Okay, well, there you have it.
But as far as I know, I don't have any Puritans listening to this show.
Okay.
So
They've already left. Is it okay?
yeah, they were out after the first time talking about, you got to tighten up your butthole.
I didn't say the word hole, so just
That's true. That's
yeah,
true.
You
But
added that.
I yes-anded it.
You did. But that's part of imagination.
Exactly.
Now we've just increased people's imagination, whether they like to. Have
Whether
that
they want to
increased-
visualize it or not.
Right.
But the imagination is one thing I've really tried my adult life not to let go of.
Mhm.
I want that, like, when I'm playing with my 4-year-old nephew, to be able to imagine the things that he's imagining, like there's a dragon in the corner or something like that. And so I want to keep that, like, childish imagination.
Right.
It's not everybody's goal, but it's one of mine anyway.
Mhm. Well, they say that we have to channel our inner child.
Yeah.
So when we were children, we would play with our Barbies or GI Joe or whatever it was, and then we would imagine that world coming alive and have this real conversation. And then it got sort of beat out of us the older we got, so that you have to just stick to the task, do that job, forget about that other stuff. You're daydreaming. Quit that.
Yeah, you're being weird. Stop it.
Yeah. Well, this is where also it's kind of nice to be rewarded for being weird. How about that?
I like that idea.
Yeah. So people who have an imagination that have a sense of play, that there's a place for them in voiceover.
Ah, yes, that sounds delightful, like a tropical island paradise. But
It may be a crazy place if you get all the voice actors in one place. There could be
Oh,
too
man.
much talking.
yeah, too many voices, like 30 voices
Oh,
per
no.
person. Like,
Make them stop.
I'm hungry. Hey, feed me.
You're always hungry.
Hey, what you doing over there?
I don't know.
I don't know, man. I'll tell you what, man. There's an island, man. Water all around it and stuff, man. Swimming sharks and stuff.
I declare. Just listen to you. Oh my.
Yeah. So, all right. You've been doing this for, we'll just say a little while. You did
Little while.
mention how long you've been doing it earlier.
when the dinosaurs were roaming
yeah,
the earth,
yeah.
I believe I said.
I like the Stegosaurus.
Yeah, they're very nice.
Yeah, a little bit prickly if you try to ride them.
Yeah.
But, it's not the most comfortable ride.
Well, I rode a camel lately, and that's pretty uncomfortable.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Where'd you ride a camel
In
at?
Morocco,
In Morocco. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
just a few weeks ago. So it's I'd say horses are better
Okay.
because you have stirrups. Camels are a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like,
An hour ride can go a long way. I've checked that off my bucket
it's
list.
off your bucket list now. You're good. No more camels.
I'm done with camels.
I'm sticking with the horses.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey.
You do animal sounds
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Impressive. What are you doing right now to promote yourself?
Well, I am in the process of putting together a couple new websites.
Okay.
And ElaineClark.com, and I also have VoiceOneProductions.com. That's on my agenda for this month. And then I have I'm going to be a speaker at the keynote speaker at WOVO, which is a group of voice actors that meet. That's going to meet in Las Vegas
Okay.
in October. So I'm going to teach a master voiceover class there and be the keynote speaker. And so I think that I've been around. So it's really funny because I went to a party last week, and someone I hadn't seen in about 20 years said, "Hey, I was talking to someone else, and they said, What a great voice you have. You should study with Elaine Clark. He said, I've known her since I was 15. I just hadn't seen her for a long time. So he came in and told me, when he
Very
was a
cool.
kid, he was like, I knew him. So it was fun.
Oh wait, all right, never mind. I thought I heard a knock, but it's only 6:06. I told her 6:30, so we're good.
Okay.
Uh, all right,
I hope you
cool.
keep that in.
I'll probably edit that out, but um, just because it makes no sense and it's not related, I'll leave errors in from time to time, especially if they're funny.
Right.
But that has like no like.
Well, I hope the butthole stays in, though.
Oh, I'm leaving the butthole. Now maybe I have to leave this part in. I don't know because it came back to buttholes.
It's a
But
theme.
okay, so kind of answered the question. You have a couple new websites coming out. Is there anything that you do like to market yourself either to people looking to take classes or to people like looking for voice talent?
Well, the voice1.com offers the classes, and I'm one of
Okay.
the teachers there. I started the company, I founded it 33 years ago, and then I recently sold that division to someone else who's running it. And but I still teach for the school, and I'm still in the space. But I have my production company. I have clients that I've had for 25, 30 years
Oh
that I'm
wow.
still working with, other ones that are new. It's just all different types of work that I do. So I feel very, very blessed that I'm constantly working in some capacity or the other, whether it's a voiceover for a commercial, a video game, a corporate industrial, an audiobook, whether I'm engineering a session or whether I'm casting or directing something, or producing. I've done it all. So that's why I have people who know me in different capacities, and I just perform whatever they need. So
Okay.
I just finished recording a project for the White House Historical Society about the Lafayette Square. So I just was the engineer on that, and
Okay.
gave a little bit of directorial advice to the narrator, who was the son of the author. I have I anyway, I just do tons of different types of stuff all the time. So I think that I figured I must have ADD because I like all the different activities, and if I just stuck with one, I would be bored.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely. All right, very cool. So now like I'm sure you have a lot to pick from. So like this isn't the highlight of your career or anything like that, but what would be a highlight or two that you would care to share with the uncontained audience?
Well, this isn't voiceover, but it's on camera.
Okay.
But for people who like the indie film Sorry to Bother You, I'm the game show host, and
Oh,
crazy
really?
hair and the eyelashes, that's a highlight. I like that because I do a little bit of on camera, but not that often. So
Yeah.
that's a huge highlight for me, and it was a wonderful experience to work with Boots Riley, the director, and Lakeith, the star of the show. And I liked being the dispatcher in Mafia 3.
Okay.
So that was really fun. I you know I, I'm into relationships. I mean, I'm not looking for a date anyway, but I'm married. But anyway, but if I enjoy the person I'm working with, I want to do
Yeah.
more projects with
Makes
them. If
sense.
I don't really enjoy that person I'm working with, I go, well, thank you, that was great, and
Nobody
we're
wants to
done.
work with an a-hole.
Right? No, well, let's not bring that up again,
It keeps on coming back.
doesn't it? Oh, we know how to analyze this
We
this
do.
interview.
Almost analyze it.
Yeah, you analyzed it. Oh my goodness.
Man, all right. I wasn't even going towards there, but yes. Okay, so
We
nobody likes
digress.
to work with like a jick. So
Okay.
continue on, please.
Yeah. So it's really a lot of what interests me and what excites me, and I have certain jobs you go, wow, this is amazing, and I'm so proud of this particular project, and there are other ones you go, well, that's a job.
Yeah,
And it varies, but I think that's why we can't always have the most wonderful project, and having a mixture of everything all around is what's really, really nice. And I've worked with some really cool people like for the audiobook business, so that I will just record some stars that come in, and I just get to be a fly on the wall and ask them all sorts of questions.
Oh,
And
very
it's
cool.
amazing stories that I've heard. So I think that just being around people and finding out stuff is the fun part of life.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That those connections that you can make and like always being able to learn something new or interesting, I think that's a highlight right there. At least it would be for me.
Yeah.
Um, so
Well, let me just tell you something. There's some people. The voiceover business can be arranged different ways for different people.
okay.
There's some that are glued to their computers and their microphones all day long.
Yeah.
That's not me. I can't do it that way, but I spend a lot of hours every day doing it, but I have to take breaks and I do other things. But there's some that will wake up at 6 a.m. and then keep on working, take a 15-minute lunch break, keep on working, auditioning and doing stuff, and take an hour lunch break. Hour dinner break, and then get
Yeah.
back on some of the pay-to-play sites so that they can try to book a certain amount of jobs based on quantity. And that's a lot of work. I like to get jobs through either referrals, through personal contacts, through my talent agents, and that's where I kind of, I like to come and go from the studio rather
Yeah.
than stay there all the time, so we can have times like this.
Yeah, yeah, even though we are technically in the studio
Yeah,
right
but it's
now, but
different.
it's a
I'm
different
I'm
flavor to the
holding this
studio.
microphone. It's not actually
It's
on a
not
stand.
floating.
It's not floating. Yeah. Yeah. That's
All right.
new and exciting.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And little things, things add
Yeah.
spice to life.
Yeah, and then also like I do corporate coaching, and I because I'm also a writer. Obviously, I'm in the fourth edition of my book. There's Money Where Your Mouth Is, so that's part of it. But also, I work with companies to help with their materials and to help them do their presentations or go for funding or get ready for a TED Talk or whatever. So I do or have a big offsite thing where I work on their communication skills
Okay.
so that they're together. So I have that into the business as well, and that's exciting too. So I guess I just like words.
Right on. For corporate communications, do you teach them the hand movements and body movements and stuff like that? Like
To a
when
certain
you're
degree.
asking a question, raise your hand up at the end.
Well, there's a way of acting for different types of jobs, like video games, toys, animation. You're going to use a lot more movement in your body. And if you use any videos that you've seen of Robin Williams when he was doing Aladdin or some of the other cartoons that he had done, you'll see such wild gyrations. And you go, if that's the gold standard, how much am I doing to compare to that?
Yeah.
And for commercials, they're a little more contained, but it still is about how do you fill that space so the words come alive when they can't see you, and how do you take with a narration, let's say that's an e-learning about safety on the in the work environment, and how do you bring that to life and have caring and concern and other stuff to that so that you have some emotional content as well as the logic and the authority of what you're speaking from. So you have all of those things that you have to bring to it. So I kind of give myself a game that
Yeah.
I'm doing every time I pick up a script and say, what is this game? And sometimes the game is how to make boring copy interesting game. And the other one is like, oh, how do I book this job because I really want a game?
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
so it kind of varies all over the place.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that is definitely a big skill to have, making boring copy interesting, because I've seen some of those like work videos where they're training people, like HR videos or whatever, and they're not interesting at all.
Let's pretend to have a boring interview right now. Hi. Hi. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
Excellent.
Excellent. Word.
Cool.
So, what did you have, tea today? Or
Um,
crumpets?
Oh, compass. No.
No.
I had a cup of coffee. It's kind of weird because I just started drinking coffee like 3 years ago.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I've been drinking coffee for a long time,
Wow.
but like started drinking more to cut out soda,
Oh, wow.
for the most part. So
Cool.
I gotta stay caffeinated.
Yeah, this is really interesting.
It is, and it could be good coffee, but it's spread in a boring way.
And cut.
That was exciting. You know what that almost reminded me of? There was a Saturday Night Live skit with it was I don't know, it wasn't coffee talk, but there was like two like almost librarian type chicks just talking to each other, and that calm voice. I don't remember who did it or whatever. So it's a bad. Do you remember this? Since I can't even tell you what the hell it was, but
Right.
some people might understand it.
Well, that also reminds me of another area of the business I've done some work in, which is ADR looping for films.
Oh yes.
So that's where you go into a studio and then you have to replace the extras parts. Like maybe it's a cafe scene and you see like 6 people sitting at the table and someone ordering a cup of coffee. Now that we have a coffee theme going, someone in the group will say, "I'll take the person on the right. You'll take the left. I'll order the coffee. I'll be the barista." And then you have to fill in the words for the people who were the extras that didn't make any noise.
Yeah.
So that's really fun.
And doesn't that also cover like off-screen dialogue too?
Yes.
So like if there's somebody like shouting like "get off my lawn" or something like that you don't actually see, or somebody begging for change in the subway.
Right. Or it could be a PA announcement. They realize it's a scene in a department store and it needs to fill in something, and it could be we have a price check on aisle 5. Price check on aisle 5. And that might just be part of that.
I got you. So now I had to remember where I was a little bit because talking so much about coffee, boring conversations, and we won't
go
the theme of the show we won't go with. But I was glad it switched to a theme of coffee because I like that better.
Good.
But when you are performing, when you are performing, what do you want your audience to take away from what they hear? What do you want them to remember about your performance?
Well, I am the vehicle that's bringing information that will make them feel and take action. So not so much about, look at me, look what I'm doing, aren't I amazing? But saying, for them to have this idea, or if it's something that's fun, that the person's laughing. Yeah. Because they heard the funny voice and the story that's going there that fits into the story. If it's about a commercial, so that they just go, wow, I really do need a Band-Aid right now. My finger's bleeding, so I think that sounds like a great idea. And then I'll go to the store and get that, or I'll order it online. So, and if it's corporate work, for them to understand on a deep level what it means, and how to find the verbs and the actions and the nouns and how that all fits together, so that the person does the right thing with that information. Let's say it's a medical industrial script that you have to then tell people how to perform this particular procedure. Then it's really important how you do it, what the intensity is, and how to pay attention to things so that they get the information out there. So knowing how they should receive the information and they do the right thing with that information is really the goal.
Okay. All right. Very cool. So basically, your goal is to get across what the client wants. Yeah. And you want them to remember what the client wants.
Because they're the ones who pay you.
Exactly.
It's funny how that works.
It is funny. It's funny how that happens.
But, in the beginning, I think most people think it's all about my voice, and people love my voice, and they just need to give me money.
Yeah.
And then you don't realize that there's a reason why your voice was hired, for not only your voice, but your personality and your persuasive ability. That is, that's not in your face. It's casual and it's acceptable.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to learn when it's someone else's words and it's talking about something you've never heard of or don't care about.
Yeah, very, very true. Very true. It's a lot harder to dig deep and find the way to put the feeling into something you don't care about.
Right.
But you care about the paycheck, so you'll.
Yeah, and
sometimes you have to. You don't want to bring it down to it's not all about money, I'm sure, but sometimes.
Well, and one of the things with actors, why we need a talent agent, is because they remind us that we're doing this for money. Because to get into this business, you have to want to do it just because you love it. It's not a business that is logical. Yeah, it's a business that you have to love and enjoy doing, and that's really the motivator for it. And some people like it because it gives them the freedom to work at home. Let's say that they like doing audiobooks. They go, okay, I love reading. I have a great imagination. My kid goes to school from these times. I have all this time that I can record the audiobook, and then when they're home, I can spend the time engaging with the child.
Yeah.
And then when they go back to school, I can either edit the book or I can record more of it. And then it fits into that lifestyle of how to work that way. And a lot of retired people do it like that too, because it gives them something to do, and that's rewarding. So I think that they're all different styles of work that's out there that fits someone's style and their preferences and their excitement level.
Okay. All right. Very cool. You could have somebody who really enjoys reading books about plants and just read those and photosynthesis and stuff like that. So if that's you, there may be a job out there for you.
I'm sure there is.
All right. So I do have one final question for you. But before I get there, I do want to thank you for coming on the show today and sharing your stories with me and the Uncontained audience. And before I get to that final question, where can people find you online? What's your corner of the internet?
Okay. Well, they can find me at voiceoneproductions.com, at voiceone.com, or at elaineclark.com.
All right. Very cool. So that's nice and simple to remember. And I will put all those in the show notes so people can just click that link and find you there. All right, Elaine, it's time for that final question of the show. It's a title question of the show. Elaine Clark, how do you live uncontained?
I live uncontained every day because every day is a new experience, new sets of possibilities, different types of jobs, and that makes me excited every day to go to work.
Okay, all right. Gotta love doing something, I guess, that like you look forward to going to work to do.
Well, it's one of those that I sort of grew into the business, and it grew into me, I guess
Nice.
you can say.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. I got one final thing to do, and that is sign off the show. Will you do me the honor of signing off the show tonight?
Hi, I'm Elaine Clark, and I live uncontained.
And that does it for another episode of Uncontained. Thank you for listening, and thank you to Elaine Clark for joining me and inviting me into her studio, and also for having a great sense of humor and having a little fun on the episode. For those of you who are interested in looking more into voiceover, make sure you check out her website, voiceone.com, and that will get you to where classes are. Or if you want to learn more about her, check out some of her work. There is also ElaineClark.com. So those are places you can go to check her out, book her, take classes with her, all of that good stuff. And if you enjoyed the show, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow button, like button, whichever one it is in whatever player you're listening to. And please follow the show, share it with a friend, and that way we can continue to do more of these shows. That's right. Now, don't forget, right after this, we do have the live demonstration of Elaine Clark's apps, Finding Melody in Your Voice and Activate Your Voice. And that's coming up right after I say this. Until next time, live uncontained. Okay, I told you to stick around for the demonstration. We have two apps from Elaine Clark that you can do, Activate Your Voice and Finding Melody in Your Voice. You can find them both in either the Apple Store or also in the Android store. The first one we're demonstrating is Activate Your Voice, where do you want to explain the app a little bit?
Yeah. I started Activate Your Voice because I took a couple pages from my book, There's Money Where Your Mouth Is, and I brought them to life because I realized that people were dropping off the ends of their sentences. And I wanted to have them get louder at the end of the sentence rather than get softer. And so I go through resonators, articulators, how to have better diction. And it's only 5 minutes, but it really is a miracle worker if you use it properly.
Okay.
Do you want to try a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I've tried this myself beforehand, but we'll see if I got any better at it. I was having trouble keeping the air for the whole, however long the period was, 13 seconds, I think you said.
That's like 10 to 12, but
10 to 12.
And that's why I did it, because people realized that they probably are only using breath support for like 4 seconds, and that means a lot of breath to edit out. So, and this really is helpful for for people in their home studio editing everything. So here we go. We're going to start a little bit.
All right, let's do this.
We're going to work on resonators.
I made it. And it also increases in volume as you go, correct?
And we have a lot more sounds, but I don't know whether they want to be subjected to that or not. Do you want to go to
But one thing
area?
I like about this is like it also tells you how to shape your mouth in order to make the sound and where to have your tongue and where the vibration is and stuff like that. Because that's a big thing I found like with doing voices and characters is like, say, like if you do Barney from The Simpsons, it's like all back here in the back of like in the back of the throat, but not all the way down like in your throat. But it's like, hi, how can me in charge of the bar?
That's called a Barney voice.
Yeah, so it's like, but then like there's other ones that are like more towards the front of your mouth.
Yeah, it's all about placement and melody, tempo. There's attitude. It's so cool.
Okay, let's do another one.
Let's work on articulation right
now.
So we worked on resonance with that one. There are quite a few more letters in the alphabet that we're going to go through, but we're just skipping around a little bit. So here's with this. It has a little pattern to it. So let's see what happens. Okay, so and then there's more stuff in here, but it really works because what the articulators are like our drum section. Is that you hear it? Close enough. You have to work on your paradiddles.
It reminds me of the like I've taken a couple voiceover classes, and there's the things you say to warm up, like New York, you need New York, you need unique New York, and like once I get that said a couple times, I can actually say it pretty fast. But or the red leather, yellow leather type thing, where it's like focusing on creating a certain sound and tongue placement.
Well, here, this is also the adding melody to your voice app. So we have, but what we're going to do is learn how to put a jazz hands on the word insurance.
Okay.
So we're going to record on the app, and we're going to record into it. And I'll let you record yourself in there.
Okay.
And just when you have the word insurance, give jazz hands with your hand. Okay. And you can click that button.
Real quick, like when would you want to do like jazz hands for?
Well, who can not live without jazz hands?
I know. I mean, for a read, like when would you want to do like
insurance? So when you want to put a shimmer on it.
Okay.
So sometimes we're talking about like, that's going to be okay. Like our hand will wiggle or our head will wiggle, but it adds that little extra wiggle. It adds a little sparkle to our words. One director told me, just like spray some chrome on it, babe. And so that's what I did is I gave it a little jazz hand.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So let's go ahead and try this.
Why don't you go ahead and record yourself.
I hit the record button. Who does insurance best?
Then press stop. And then we're going to play it back. It should be this one.
Who does insurance best?
Okay, now we can go back to my samples. And who does insurance best? Or who does insurance best? So you're fairly close to that. Of course, we have different, and then you can just delete your recordings, and it keeps track of all the ones that you've worked on. And there are lots of different exercises. There are 21 exercises. There's a video for download. We have the word emphasis chart in there. So it's actually it's a really good home practice setup because I created this adding melody to your voice app because people who were monotone, remember we did our moments, and needed to, or you're given direction how to do it specifically on a keyword so that it stands out, and it's very helpful and taking direction and giving the final product that you want.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, when you're monotone, you sound pretty boring when you're talking. So that's really cool. It teaches you the like drop down a different tone in there and back up or end at the end of it. And I've watched the video too, so you actually demonstrate the hand movement. So if you're wondering what we're doing, you can check that out as well. So
yeah, the app is free. The download video training is like 16 minutes, and that's $9.99.
Very cool. All right, so check those out. Let me know if you have any luck with them, or I want to hear the difference in your voice from when you started and when you ended.
How about that?
That'd
They may
be,
sound like James Earl Jones at the end.
they
How about
may.
that?
That'd be really cool. I can't quite get that low. Uh,
How low can you go?
he must have a tight butt.
Oh, gosh. And there you go, everyone.
I'll probably end that.
You're uncontained.
All right. Thank you once again, Elaine.
Thank you.
And that does it for another episode of Uncontained. Thank you for listening, and I hope your 2020 is badass and you achieve all the goals that you have set for you. And all the resolutions that you set, you stick with. I know that's the hardest part, sticking with that resolution. But if you are looking at getting into voiceover, make sure you check out voice1.com, and they have a lot of classes there. Or you can even check out Elaine's apps, which is activate your voice and adding melody to your voice. So those can be found in the Play Store or Apple Store. So check that out. Until next time, live uncontained.